Hey everybody, JT Jaborn here. Welcome to another movie review. This time I'm going to do a review on the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe film, Black Panther. And yeah, let's get started. I actually saw this movie opening night, and I'm recording this on the Sunday. And I just want to get my thoughts on it. So, Black Panther, man, Marvel's done a pretty good job with their universe. In fact, they've done a fantastic job with it. The latest one is another solid entry. The plot of this movie, it's about King T'Challa, or, Prince T'Challa at the start of this. He has to become king. He has to defend his kingdom of Wakanda. And Michael B. Jordan comes in as Eric Killmonger, who wants to take over the throne. You also have Andy Serkis in there. And then you have his, sisters. You have Lupita Nyong'o. You got Forrest Whitaker. You got a pretty good cast here. Martin Freeman's in it as well. And in essence, he's just, trying to defend his kingdom, and then he's trying to think, okay, what's the next course of action for Wakanda? Should I share my technology with them, or should we just kind of keep isolated and, prosperous, or should we, go out and help people? That's kind of like the main ideas that are presented in the movie. So let's talk about the good stuff first before we get into some of my negatives. Good stuff. The cast. The cast does a really good job. Chadwick Boseman is pretty good. The Black Panther suit is the best looking suit I think that Marvel has to offer outside of, the first Iron Man suit, or maybe Captain America's stealth suit and the Winter Soldier. But the Black Panther suit, whichever version he uses, that thing just pops on screen. It looks great, and Chadwick Boseman is really good. Andy Serkis is so much fun in this movie as well. I also liked his sister. I thought she was pretty entertaining, her charisma, personality. I thought she did pretty good as well. And lastly, we have Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger, slash, Eric Stevens, slash there's another name, but I can't remember it. He's also really good. He's probably Marvel's most compelling villain that they've done in the MCU. He's definitely their most, fleshed out within, the span of one movie. And then I'd say, you'd have Michael Keaton's Vultures in there, and then Loki, and, yeah, that's about it so far. I mean, some other villains have been okay, but I'm not counting, the Netflix shows or anything like that. I'm just saying in terms of movies, he's probably their most fleshed out that they've done within, a single film. And he's pretty good in it too. Yeah, so that's some good stuff there. The costume designs are great. Wakanda looks nice, and I do appreciate how this is a standalone movie. And it takes itself more seriously than, I think, pretty much more than any other Marvel movies. I think there's maybe one or two jokes. I mean, I wasn't laughing at all during the movie. There's one or two times I may have snickered, and mostly those were because of Andy Serkis just kind of hamming up and chewing scenery, which I'm great. I love Andy Serkis. He's a fantastic actor. And those are mainly the only bit of jokey scenes that you get in the movie. The rest of it is more of a straightforward, serious film, and I appreciate that. This is also more of a standalone movie too. It doesn't have too many, I mean, it's all in the same universe. We all know that, but it's really just kind of pushed aside. It's kind of on its own thing. You know what I mean? And it's that's what I appreciate about it. It was more serious. It was more standalone, not hundreds of tie-ins and such. The only real big tie-in is something that happens kind of at the end of the movie. It's kind of a spoiler, but I want to do a spoiler-free thoughts right now before I get into some of my gripes and spoiler stuff with the movie. But yeah, I thought that stuff, I did appreciate that about the movie. Some of my negatives in this movie, some of it's spoilers, but I'll just say this at the get-go. The action sequences are not very good. In fact, they're pretty bad. Well, not awful, but not very good at all. The last Marvel movie that they had, Thor Ragnarok, had really good action sequences, but this movie, they're really up close. There's too much of that editing focused, and then there's some scenes where they try to, Ryan Coogler's a great storyteller, but action sequences in this movie, it's not really his strong cup of tea. He's good at the character stuff, which is, apparent in this movie, the stuff that he does with Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman. But his action sequences that he has aren't very impressive. They don't really keep you on the edge of your seat. The first scene with Black Panther, it's so, blurry and, constantly cutting so fast that you can't really tell what's going on. But, it wasn't in, I know Batman Begins had the same issue, too, in terms of action sequences, but it wasn't building up to, the first full reveal of Batman. We've already seen what Black Panther looks like. We've seen his action scenes done better in Captain America Civil War that he's in. And this movie, it's just the action sequences weren't very good. There's one scene where they go into this club that looks like it was straight out of Skyfall, minus like the the Komodo dragon pit that they have. I think they pretty much just like tiled over it. Um, there's one scene where it's like this really long. They try and do like this one take fight scene, and it kind of reminded me. It just felt like kind of awkward and out of place. It kind of reminded me a bit of that scene in The Last Airbender. I mean, this is obviously better than that. It's not that low, but like where the Earthbenders are in their pit and all the actors are like looking for direction. That's kind of how I felt about that action sequence. And then some of it did come across as pretty animated, but you know, the character stuff is still good enough to get you through it. In terms of what I'd rate this movie, I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, it's a good Marvel movie. I did enjoy seeing Thor Ragnarok more and Spider-Man Homecoming, but I definitely think this is better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's a different type of movie, so I'm just saying in terms of the series what I personally liked. I do appreciate the more serious tone that the film had going for it, but there are just some things that I'm going to get into now, which is like the spoiler section of this video that I didn't really like. So, anyways, that's that. Let's get into full-blown spoilers from this point onward. Okay. Michael B. Jordan's, Eric Stevens' Killmonger. His villain is fleshed out. He's really good. I did appreciate his backstory where you could understand kind of where he's coming from. But his whole goal is to, take over the kingdom, and he's the most interesting character in the movie. He's more interesting than Black Panther and kind of everyone else going around him. But there's something I just didn't like. For one thing, we see him early in the movie, which is good, and then he just disappears for at least over an hour or so of the movie. And then he kind of just shows up kind of later on in the film, and then takes the throne, and he's like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to change everything. He's in power for what seems like 5 minutes, and then he's kind of taken out, which I'm like, I kind of would have liked more of him in the movie. You know what I mean? I'll give an example. The Dark Knight Rises. Some people really like it, some people don't. I think it's a solid movie. Bane, when he takes over Gotham, you really feel like he's taken over Gotham, and you really feel his presence throughout that last, hour or so of the movie. Like, Bane beats the shit out of Batman, which is what this movie does too. Although, Batman was broken, Bane was like, I'm gonna make you watch and, make you suffer, for months at a time. And then, when Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die. This movie, Killmonger, he throws him off a cliff, and they're all like, oh, he's dead and stuff, and we're just the audience, okay, no, he's not. And then he just seemingly, they just happen to walk into him. It's not T'Challa really, overcame anything. He just got, the magic juice put back into him, and then he just went right back out there, and then kind of kicked his ass, and then Michael B. Jordan is dead. I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of lame. And Michael B. Jordan's just characters. He's just like, okay, we're going to use this vibranium that we have mined in here, and we're just going to use this so we can throw everyone. And I'm like, okay, and then nothing really happens. Nothing ever leaves Wakanda. So the villain, his backstory and everything, that's good. His performance is good, but I felt like he should have been more of a threat and more of a presence into the movie. Also, I really liked Andy Serkis in this, and I do think it was a little too soon to kill him off. I think it would have been more interesting to see him working with Michael B. Jordan causing shit in Wakanda, and then, maybe T'Challa, kills him or someone else does, one of his soldiers. I thought that would have been pretty good. Would have made it more interesting. And then, yeah, in terms of how this affects the overall MCU, I think there's gonna be a huge factor of this, Wakanda in, Infinity War. I think that was from the trailer we saw Thanos' army there. But yeah, I think that's my biggest gripe with it. Michael B. Jordan, he's good, and then the final fight scene where he's kind of just crying, and then I'm like, okay, this is good. Maybe this is he's gonna do kind of a similar thing in Civil War where he saves him, but no, he dies, and that's pretty much the last we see of him. I did appreciate how it was kind of more of a sad, emotional thing. I just wanted to see Wakanda, and then he's like, I could help you, and he's like, screw this, performs what the Japanese form of how samurai warriors and that, kill themselves, they stab themselves, and then he kind of keels over like that. So that I thought was a lot more emotional than other films. But yeah, and another thing too, the pacing in this movie. There's points in this movie where it really drags on, where I'm just kind of just okay. I was looking at my watch from time to time. My watch that I'm actually not wearing right now, but overall, I do think it's another solid Marvel film. I don't think it's a game changer. like some people are saying it. Maybe to them it is, but to me it really wasn't. I've kind of seen superhero movies that are better than this one. In fact, Marvel's done better ones. But I do think it is a solid movie, and I do think it's definitely worth checking out. So that's my review. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of Marvel's Black Panther. It's making a shit ton of money this weekend. It's making an insane amount of money, actually. I mean, my theater, when I went to see it, like the Thursday night wasn't too bad, and then I went to see another crappy movie yesterday, and it wasn't really sold out at all. Well, I mean, yesterday it was really sold out. Like, I mean, that was the longest I ever waited in line at that theater, but it was kind of crazy to see. But Black Panther, solid choice, solid movie. Marvel continues, you know, well, I shouldn't say like they're 100% like perfect or whatever. They have had some problems with some of their movies. Some of their movies I haven't really liked. But I do think their last three that they've done, Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, and this one, have all been pretty solid. With Thor Ragnarok being the best Thor movie, Spider-Man Homecoming I think is the third best Spider-Man movie after Spider-Man 1 and 2. And this movie also being pretty solid. So, yep, that's what's up with this movie. Hopefully, if they do make a sequel to Black Panther, which they probably will, considering how much money this movie is making, I hope they improve on the action front, because the action was the weak point in this movie. It's definitely just forgettable, nothing all too special about it, and yeah, but the story beats are good where it counts. So I'm willing to tolerate some mediocre action sequences if the story can, you know, fill in. If the story wasn't as good, then I'd definitely like lower this movie down. But like, you know, the story and, you know, the characterization, that was solid enough to, like, you know, help save the movie's rating a bit for me. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, and if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're going to like it regardless, unless you want more of a lighthearted movie, which I know some people have really become accustomed to in terms of Marvel movies, where it's really lighthearted, you know, joke, 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 joke. But this is one that definitely takes itself more seriously, and it felt a little more adult than a lot of the other ones, and I appreciated that about it. So I hope Marvel makes more movies kind of similar to this tone. Kind of like this, and movies like Winter Soldier, which, you know, Winter Soldier was a bit more humorous, but like it was more like straight up serious, which is what I appreciated about that one. But yeah, I definitely think this is pretty good, worth checking out. 7.5 out of 10 for me. And yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of Black Panther, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.